I still can't believe how Oleksandr Usyk came up from cruiserweight and basically spoiled the party for everyone. Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, like whatever we thought the state of the heavyweight division was in, say, 2019, Oleksandr Usyk stormed the gates and rewrote history. What's good? It's Woog. We've got Oleksandr Usyk, 22 wins and 0 losses, defending his WBC, WBA, and WBO. Remember, the IBF title splintered, so just 3 of the 4 major heavyweight titles against Tyson Fury, 34 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. And Tyson Fury is a former 2-time champion. He won all the other 3 belts, the IBF, the WBO, and the WBA back in the day when he beat Vladimir Klitschko, and then in beating Deontay Wilder, became a 2-time champ, capturing the WBC belt. Usyk versus Fury is a rematch of their instant classic that took place earlier this year in May. And when I say instant classic, sometimes I feel like that term is overused. It absolutely applies here, because you had the first battle for undisputed since Lennox Lewis. Remember, the Klitschko brothers never became undisputed because you always had Vitaly Klitschko holding the WBC belt and Vladimir Klitschko holding the other titles. So this Fury versus Usyk 1 was a battle for undisputed, super highly anticipated. No, it wasn't the showdown that the boxing world thought we were going to get at heavyweight for undisputed. I'm going to get to that later. But this was the battle for undisputed, and unlike a lot of other super fights, this one actually over-delivered. It didn't under-deliver. It didn't meet expectations. It exceeded expectations and featured what I consider to be the most dramatic moment of 2024, and that took place in the 9th round, and we'll get to that too. But Fury versus Usyk 1, I see to be the fight of the year. I hear, there've been a lot of good fights this year, and I feel like every time we've got a really good fight, like we just got another really good fight between Alexis Rocha and Curiel, and people will say, well, that's fight of the year contender. Look, as far as I see it, unless this rematch exceeds the first fight, the fight of the year is already in the book. It's Fury versus Usyk 1, fight of the year. Everything else can battle for second place, but the fight of the year, as it stands, Tyson Fury versus Oleksandr Usyk. And again, the moment of the year took place in that 9th round with 30 seconds left on the clock. So when you really think about it, I had said at the top of this that Oleksandr Usyk stormed the gates and spoiled the party. Like, a lot of people thought, once upon a time, the showdown would have been between Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. And that's because Tyson Fury was on a long multi-year hiatus after becoming the unified champion after beating Vladimir Klitschko. But then Tyson Fury returned to the ring, had the 2 fights with Deontay Wilder, the first resulting in the draw with that dramatic second knockdown in the 12th round where Tyson Fury got up, barely beat the count, and it ended up being a draw. In the rematch, Tyson Fury destroyed Deontay Wilder, and Anthony Joshua obviously lost to Andy Ruiz and then beat Ruiz in the rematch. But if you really think about it, Deontay Wilder kind of indirectly ruined Anthony Joshua's career to a degree. Let me explain. And look, Anthony Joshua had a lot of success before and after what I'm about to mention. But do you remember when they had already agreed to terms between Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua? This was after Fury beat Wilder in their rematch, and Anthony Joshua had beaten Andy Ruiz in their rematch and then beat like Kubrat Pulev. So the stage was basically set. They were putting that Fury versus AJ fight together, but then Deontay Wilder activated his rematch clause and pushed for a 3rd fight with Tyson Fury. So it was at that point that Anthony Joshua then had to face his mandatory challenger, Oleksandr Usyk. If it wasn't for Deontay Wilder activating that 3rd fight with Fury, we would have probably gotten Fury versus Anthony Joshua, and Joshua wouldn't have had to fight Oleksandr Usyk. Not twice, but even once. But as history would have it, Fury and Wilder ran back that 3rd fight, and then on the other side of the bracket, we'll say Anthony Joshua ended up losing back-to-back fights against Oleksandr Usyk, who was only a couple fights into his heavyweight stint after becoming undisputed cruiserweight champion. So on one side, you had Fury knocking off Deontay Wilder, and then you had Usyk defeating Anthony Joshua in back-to-back fights. So this showdown between Fury and Usyk was truly to see who was the best heavyweight of the era. And again, the fight exceeded expectations. It was a phenomenal fight with ebbs and flows that resulted in Oleksandr Usyk beating the Gypsy King, who had been taunting him about being an ugly little middleweight. Usyk defeated Fury via split decision. Very close fight, which we're going to look back to in just a moment. But the question coming out of that and going into this rematch is, what are the adjustments that Tyson Fury needs to make? And to that, I will say, not much. Like, if you remember that fight, Tyson Fury was boxing his butt off. Like, through 6 rounds, Fury was up 4 rounds to 2 because you had Usyk winning the first 2, you had Fury winning the next 4 and starting to pull away. Like, he hurt Usyk in that 6th round. He started landing nice right hands to the body, started landing nice right uppercuts, even lead uppercuts, catching Usyk coming in. But he was just tagging Usyk to the body with both hands, but especially with that right hand to the body. He was really turning the tide to where it started to look like, ooh, I don't see how Usyk's gonna win this one. Like, through 6 rounds, I thought it was looking pretty bad for Usyk by the end of the 6th round. And then you got to the 7th round where Usyk started to rally back a bit, but I still had Fury winning that round. So at that point, you've got Fury up 5 rounds to 2. It was the 8th round where there was a huge turnaround where Usyk not only won the round, but he cut Fury towards the end of the round to where Fury, who, I mean, the commentators during the fight were talking about how fresh Fury was looking through like 6 and 7 rounds. Not through 8 rounds. Fury started to look fatigued, started to look like he was battered a bit, walked back to his corner looking like he was in distress after the 8th round. And then it was the following round where, again, Usyk's winning the round in the 9th round. And then with 30 seconds to go, Usyk throws a wide right hand, follows it up with a left hand over the top. That same looping left hand that was splashing Fury in the first couple of rounds. Usyk landed that left nicely early in the fight. But again, Fury took over in the 2nd through 6th. But that same left hand with 30 seconds left in the 9th round, splash on Tyson Fury, changed everything. Again, this was the moment of 2024. You had Fury go back to the ropes, started to get hit a couple of more times. He fell into the other ropes and then into the other ropes, getting hit every time in between by at least 1 or 2 nice, clean shots. And then he goes into the other ropes after Usyk blasts him with another nice, clean left hand, and then Fury goes stumbling from that rope into the other rope, and then he crashes into those ropes. This was about like the 3rd or 4th time at least that the ropes were keeping Tyson Fury up. The ref finally calls it a knockdown. Some might have thought that he stopped the fight, but no, the ref wisely calls it a knockdown. Fury at that point is basically saved by the bell, and then in true Tyson Fury fashion, he basically recovers by the 10th round. Usyk wins the 10th round still, and then the 11th and 12th rounds are very close. I gave him to Usyk, but you could argue that they split those rounds or that Usyk won both. Maybe even that Fury won both, but I don't see Fury winning the 11th and 12th. I thought that at most those were splits 1-1, or it was Usyk winning both the 11th and 12th rounds, but they were close rounds. So the fight goes to the scorecard, and again, Oleksandr Usyk becomes undisputed heavyweight champion via split decision. So again, if you're asking me, what are the adjustments that Fury needs to make? Not much, because if it wasn't for that monumental 9th round for Usyk, this would have been a draw, at least with those judges, because the deciding scorecard was 114 to 113. That 114 to 113 was because you take a point away from Fury because of the 9th round knockdown. So that would have otherwise been 114-114, a split, or is it a majority draw? It's a split draw. So Tyson Fury, it's not like he got beat soundly in this fight. This was one of those could go either way types of fights. And Oleksandr Usyk is notoriously a second half of the fight fighter. He picks it up in the moments where, the Daniel Dubois start to fatigue. Anthony Joshua starts to fatigue. I know Anthony Joshua won some of those late rounds in the second fight. Oleksandr Usyk picks it up. in the second half of the fight. So I'm wondering, Usyk's just a little bit older now in this rematch. He's 37 years old now, even if he appears to be the fresher fighter between the two and fresher than the 36-year-old Tyson Fury, who a lot of people are saying, well, what does Fury have left? I'm thinking like, he almost beat Oleksandr Usyk, which if Usyk does win this rematch, think about it. He would have beaten Tyson Fury twice, Anthony Joshua twice, and Daniel Dubois, who's currently the IBF champion. I mean, Oleksandr Usyk would have then had Hall of Fame careers at cruiserweight and at heavyweight. I mean, you could argue he's a Hall of Famer in both divisions separately. So yeah, that would be a huge resume if Oleksandr Usyk can beat Tyson Fury twice. But yeah, if you want to talk about what was working for each guy, Oleksandr Usyk he's got feet like no other in the heavyweight division. Like the way that the guy moves, I remember first really taking note of his foot movement when he was fighting like Maris Briedis and then Murat Gassiev and different guys like that, Marco Huck, and then later Tony Bellew, and before all that, Michael Hunter. Oleksandr Usyk doesn't move like he moved at cruiserweight, but he still moves very, very well when you see how his feet are always in position and then he gets out of range, back into range. He's able to throw those setup shots while using his lead probing right hand to set up big left hands. He's always changing levels. And I'm thinking like, damn, at 37 years old, like for those of you who are older than say 35, go out and run like 4+ miles. See how your legs feel during the second half of that run. Go to a heavy bag, start moving laterally around the bag, throw a few punches, and do this for like a few minutes or something. Start moving your head like this. Start doing the U-shape dips, start doing the V-shape dips like that, and move around the bag, throwing punches. See how many minutes it takes before your lower back starts to tighten up and before your arms and shoulders start to fatigue from throwing the punches. The fact that Oleksandr Usyk is still able to slip jabs in the way that he's able to at 37 or at 36 when they fought the first time, and the fact that his legs are able to move the way that they were moving not only early in the fight, but in the second half of the fight, where as Fury started to fatigue in the 7th and 8th rounds and his legs started to look a lot more cinder block like, where he was basically just a upper body fighter in the later rounds of that fight. As Fury started to look like an older fighter, Usyk was able to still hop into range, throw big shots, move, and to keep pushing the pace on Fury. So if it wasn't for Fury's fatigue issues, Fury would have won that fight against Usyk, I believe. But if is a strong word, because you could talk about any variables. If we got what we got. But yeah, Oleksandr Usyk's legs are phenomenal. And if he's coming into this rematch with those same legs, he's going to be very, very tough to beat. I mean, he's undefeated still as it stands. Whereas Tyson Fury, again, that right hand was so money to the body, and then he would start throwing the right hand uppercut, catching Usyk. He hurt Usyk again. He hurt him in the 6th round, and he stopped him dead in his tracks in different points of the fight. And when Fury, who was moving very intelligently, especially in the first few rounds, when he would then start coming forward and throwing big shots, he was landing on Usyk, and you saw Usyk's body language start to change. Again, I was wondering how he was going to turn it around, but again, maybe it was because of the amount of movement that Fury had to keep on doing. Maybe it was because of the amount of punches that Fury had to keep on throwing. But that Fury in the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, that was not the same Fury that we had in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds. And yes, Usyk was fatiguing late as well. I mean, this was a very tough, grueling fight where you had ebbs and flows. Again, fight of the year for me, hands down. But Usyk was a lot fresher in those later rounds than Fury was. So he edged it on the scorecards. But even with that dynamic of stamina that favored Usyk, it was still a razor thin decision. But one thing that I'm wondering is, why didn't Fury start coming forward more when he was having that success in the 2nd to 6th round? Was it because when Usyk started to tag him more in the 7th and 8th rounds, and then obviously in the ninth. But it starting with the 7th and 8th rounds to where he started to really turn it around, did that impact Fury to where he was like gun shy at that point and weary about coming in and throwing those, that launching that two-fisted attack and then clinching, because that's another thing that he was doing well when he was having that success in the 3rd through 6th round. He would land a couple big shots, tie him up, or he would catch Usyk coming in. Usyk would stagger back, and then Fury would move a little bit more and then start feinting again. So those things were working huge for Fury. The feinting, the right hands to the body, and the uppercuts. I'd imagine Fury is training his butt off stamina-wise to make sure that he doesn't have another 8th and 9th round like he did in this last fight. And Usyk, can Usyk have a better fight than he did in the first fight? Yes, obviously, if he stops Fury, that would be a better outcome for Usyk. But I still think that this rematch is going to go the distance. So I don't think this is going to be like the series between Fury and Wilder. I think that this is going to more closely approximate another great heavyweight series. Evander Holyfield versus Riddick Bowe. By the way, go rewatch their first 2 fights. Unbelievable. And you've also got the parallels of Holyfield being the former cruiserweight. Yes, Holyfield was a champion going into their first fight, and he was much more experienced than Riddick Bowe, but Riddick Bowe was a lot bigger than Holyfield. Rewatch those first 2 classics. But yeah, I think that this rematch, look, either one of these guys can stop the other. Fury can stop Usyk, Usyk can stop Fury, but I think it's going to go the distance. And I'm kind of going with the law of averages here. I think that this will level out. I think that this is going to feature some ebbs and flows. Whereas again, in the first fight, it was Usyk winning early with the first 2 rounds. And then you had the change in momentum going to Fury for the 3rd through 6th, 7th-ish. And then obviously dramatically swinging back to Usyk for the 8th through 10th. And then it started to level out for the 11th and 12th. So that's how much ebb and flow you had in the first fight. I think there's going to be some of that in this second fight, but I don't think it's going to be as back and forth where you got a couple rounds here, a few rounds here, a few rounds here, where you have the pendulum swinging that frequently. I think that you're going to get more swing rounds in this second fight than we got in the first fight, because in the first, the only real swing rounds, in my opinion, were maybe the 7th round. I thought that was close, but I still gave it to Fury. But really, it was just the 11th and 12th that were the toughest ones to call. I think you're going to get more swing rounds in this second fight. And I think that Fury, the big man, is going to have these moments where he starts backing Usyk up. Like, I think one of the commentators in the first fight said, Fury looks like he's getting bigger and Usyk looks like he's shrinking and getting smaller. He said that like in the 5th or 6th round when things were really looking like they were favoring Tyson Fury. I think you're going to get some of that dynamic. Again, Fury, I think he's going to fight like a possessed man, a desperate possessed man. He's going to do everything he can to punctuate his legacy by getting that get back against Oleksandr Usyk. And I think that he's going to look like the big man. And look, he does well in these rematches, right? I think that Anthony Joshua did a little bit better, a lot better, you could argue, but at least a little bit better in the rematch against Usyk. Whereas Fury, when you look at his rematches against Derek Chisora, against Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury seemingly makes the corrections he needs to make. I think that he's been watching a lot of tape. I think he knows where Usyk started to gain control and what he could have done better with. I think that there were moments where he was hanging around in the pocket after landing a couple shots on Usyk, where he was staying too close and in range for the quicker fighter Usyk to take off on him. And that's what got him cut late in the 8th round. And it got him blasted a couple times in the 7th round. But I really want to see who's going to be winning the feint battle between the two, because Usyk's feints, his probing right hand, his level changing, which he always does brilliantly. And again, you want to talk about like preservation and how well he's aged, like 37 years old, dipping like that frequently. Yes, he was dipping a lot more in the early rounds than he was in late rounds. But I mean, again, his movement, his changing of phenomenal. So his feints were giving Fury some issue, you know, with the probing hand, changing levels, and then launching that big left hand. But Fury's feints, I thought, were even more effective when he was having success against Usyk. I think Fury's going to be feinting a ton, and I think he's going to be letting his hands go. I think he's going to do a lot more holding in this rematch, where you did see Usyk bodily wise, not too dissimilar from Francis Ngannou when he fought Fury, but Usyk late in the fight basically moved Fury off of him, like with his shoulder, said, "Get off me." You saw Usyk do that late, and I'm like, damn, that says something about Usyk's legs, which I think are better condition and in better shape than Tyson Fury. So I think Fury should use his weight to lean on Usyk more in this rematch. I think you're gonna get Fury coming forward a little bit more in this rematch than he did in the first fight. Again, he did in the first fight, but he picked his spots. I actually think that Fury is going to look a little bit better in this second fight in the middle and late rounds. I don't think you're going to get a moment quite as dramatic for Usyk as he got in that first fight. I mean, he nearly hit a home run in that 9th round. And yes, he is looking for opportunities to blast Fury. And look, he's really whipping that left hand, and he can definitely hurt Fury again in this rematch. I just think that Fury's chin, like it does usually for the most part, is going to hold up. I don't think he's going to be getting beat from pillar to post like he did in the 9th. And I think Fury is actually going to edge Oleksandr Usyk and win a decision here. I think this is going to be another coin flip. It's going to be a very, very close fight. But I think that this rematch is going to go Tyson Fury's way. I think that he might even drop Usyk in this rematch. He hurt him multiple times in the first fight. I think he's going to go to the body. I think he's going to be feinting a lot. He's going to be looking for those opportunities to explode with that nice, sneaky right uppercut. I think he's going to have more success in this rematch, and I think he's going to win a close majority decision, split decision, maybe even a close unanimous decision. But I've got Tyson Fury coming through and winning the rematch against Oleksandr Usyk here. Yeah, I think the Gypsy King's going to get his get back. And then that will kind of set the stage for a rubber match if Usyk is so inclined. Wow, like that. I mean, yeah. I'm taking Tyson Fury via close decision. I don't think the Gypsy King's done. No, his legs aren't what they were when he fought Vladimir Klitschko. No, his legs aren't what they were even when he rematched Deontay Wilder for the second fight. Like, I don't think Fury's legs for the third Wilder fight were what they were in the second Wilder fight. Like, I think that was where you could see a change in how Tyson Fury was moving. I'm also curious to see what weight Tyson Fury comes in this third fight. He was a little bit leaner for their first fight, or actually significantly leaner than he was for the second and third fights against Wilder, than he was for the fight against Dillian White, or for the trilogy fight against Derek Chisora, or for the Ngannou fight. Fury was 262 in that fight against Usyk. He's often fought like somewhere between 270 and 280 in recent years, whereas Usyk weighed 233, which is pretty big for Usyk. You know, he's usually around 220 something, 230 something, but I think Usyk is going to be around that same 230-ish range. Whereas, again, I'm curious to see if Fury is going to be 260-ish, low 260s, or if he's going to go closer to 270. If he goes closer to 270, though, or exceeds 270, I then worry about his cardio and his stamina in the second half of the fight. So I think that he's going to keep it on the lighter side. I don't know if he's going to go below 260, but I think he's going to be low 260s, not 250s, but low 260s again. So I think that Fury's going to come in at about the same thing. But yeah, I'd be surprised if he, weighs in at like 273. It's like, okay, so what's the game plan? Is he going to try to make this a lot more rugged and lean on Usyk and come forward on Usyk and just bully Usyk with his body? So yeah, I'm really curious to see what Fury is looking to tweak in this rematch. But again, I don't think it needs to be much. It really doesn't. But yeah, I'm taking Tyson Fury via close decision in the rematch against Oleksandr Usyk. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments. Again, this is just a monumental fight. You don't have as much Tyson Fury trash talk as you did in the first. I mean, he's had some, but Usyk's clearly got his respect, and this rematch is a little bit more all business. We just have to see how this one shakes out. And the result of this fight is probably going to determine if Daniel Dubois gets to jump in, because as it stands, Dubois is about to defend his title against Joseph Parker. I can't wait to do that preview and breakdown. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this historically significant rematch in the comments. And this undercard isn't as strong as some of the other Riyadh season undercards. Like, this fight's undercard, it pales in comparison with what, Turki Al-Sheikh's got going on that Better Be It versus Bivol 2 undercard. Check that thing out. Crazy. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are into the fight talk. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.